Camp Bonnie Brae is my home on the hills because it made me who I am today.
Everything that I do was fostered through the Girl Scouts.
The people are really what make Camp Bonnie Brae.
It's helped me know that I can do anything that I really want to do.
I can't name one girl in my troop, but I can absolutely remember my time at Bonnie Brae.
Camp Bonnie Brae, Camp Bonnie Brae, Camp Bonnie Brae, Camp Bonnie Brae. Some call it fun, but some may call it madness. So come along with us and wipe away your sadness. Happy campers are we, having fun neath the trees. And when we are gone, you'll remember our song, 'cause we're from Camp Bonnie Brae, Camp Bonnie Brae, Camp Bonnie Brae, Camp Bonnie Brae, Camp.
In 1911, William Dakin's family donated the original piece of Camp Bonnie Brae to the Girl Scouts. At the time, it was Girl Scouts of Springfield Council. The first summer of camp was in 1919, and it was directed by Edith Newell and Edith Finette. In 1925, I believe, the Dakin family continued to donate more land to expand Camp Bonnie Brae, and now camp is over 200 acres of property that goes from main camp all the way out to the wetlands and an enchanted forest. In 1941, Camp Bonnie Brae was very lucky to have Eleanor Roosevelt come to camp and explore camp, and girls from all across the country and all across the world came to Camp Bonnie Brae as part of a world summit. Camp Bonnie Brae is the first camp in the country to create a CIT program. A lot of CIT programs, not just within Girl Scouting, have been designed based upon the original CIT program that Camp Bonnie Brae created, and we were the first camp in the country to create a buddy system. So if you go to camp now and you go into the water, everybody's required to flip a buddy tag. If you walk throughout camp, we always say, make sure you have a buddy. Creating that security and that safety net for families is something that we pride ourselves on. Without that day and without the Dakin family believing in camp and the opportunity that camp provides for girls, Camp Bonnie Brae wouldn't exist.
I can't name one girl in my troop, but I can absolutely remember my time at Bonnie Brae.
Little rabbit on the forest stream, ba 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 ba. Little rabbit by the window screen, ba 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 ba. Saw a rabbit be bopping by, rapping at the door.
I very much remember walking down the road to Burnham Wood, and I remember meeting, I think my first counselor was Gumby, and I remember walking into the unit and my parents being like, this is where she's gonna stay for the next week? And there were all these girls and all this stuff around. At that time, I was very quiet. I didn't speak much at all because people used to make fun of me for the birthmark on my face a lot at that age, which sucked. But I remember that first day doing all the welcoming games and being around the girls, and they could care less what I looked like. They could care less what was going on. They just wanted to be around me. And I literally remember that first night. We were standing in a tent, and there was a spider in the corner. And I remember, like, we all hugged each other and were screaming over this spider. And I remember thinking, I'm not actually scared of this spider, but to be with this group of girls and they're hugging and I'm a part of this experience that we're all scared of this together, it was such a powerful feeling for me that I don't know if I was hooked from that moment, but that is one memory of the last 30 years that is so vivid still in my mind.
I started going to Camp Bonnie Brae when I was 7 years old. I grew up in the city, in Chicopee, and my mom didn't want me spending all summer in our neighborhood, really, and I was a Girl Scout, so she sent me up to this middle of nowhere town of East Otis, Massachusetts, and sent me to camp for the summer. As a child, I did not play outside. You got dirty. I much rather read a book and sit inside. So I really decided that my mom was trying to murder me off. There was no way that I was the favorite child like I'd always thought. If she was sending me to this place that had trees and bugs and dirt, and you were expected to sleep in a tent and go outside and not shower necessarily every day. Camp eventually grew on me after that first summer, and it's now a place that I love dearly. It means a lot to me.
Everybody's mother probably got them into Girl Scouts, and my mother was a Scout before me. I camped here as a junior Girl Scout, and we set up our pup tents in a field. The building we're standing in right now did not exist back then. We had those real pup tents with the strings, and we put them in a circle, and we had to make a fire to cook our hot dogs on a stick and all of that sort of thing. And it was pretty great. I remember it to this day. It wasn't the tents now where you have those elastic things and like anybody can pop up a tent. It took 2 or 3 girls to set up a tent that fit 2 girls. And, you know, making the fire, gathering the wood covering and having it rain and being huddled in there laughing because, you know, your tent was kind of cheesy and water's falling through and whatever. But you really did work together for the camp experience.
My first summer at Camp Bonnie Brae, I was really nervous because it was my first time going to like an away camp that I slept over for a week. Some of my favorite activities was probably swimming in a big pond. And we also got to kayak, and I got to paddleboard for the first time, and I got to meet new friends, like a girl from Miami. Camp is a special place because it's a way that you like have your own adventure and you take your own path. I was having a great time. I wasn't nervous anymore. I met a lot of new friends, and I was having a great time. I didn't really want to go.
My mom went to Bonnie Brae and Edith Newell in the, I don't know, God, probably the 50s. I think she was really excited that my sister and I were really interested in kind of continuing that tradition and going to the same camp that she went to. I remember being pretty fearless about it, that it was, I was just really excited about it right away, and I remember, I don't remember feeling homesickness, ever. I loved being in an environment with all girls, and every year that I went, I kind of learned more about myself from doing that. I loved the rusticness of camp and learning to be independent and do things for myself, learning how to like do a one-match fire and you know, go polar bear swimming and things that you don't think you can do. We all are disgusting by like day 2. Like we're all just like in the same baggy shirts and haven't showered, and so it really levels the playing field very quickly. And I had no idea when I was going there what girls, like what socioeconomic backgrounds the other girls had, what their life experiences were, like who had, 2 loving parents and who was in a foster home. And that was stuff that would like come out, and you would learn that about people when they wanted to share information about themselves. I think that was a really valuable experience for me, to just meet people from so many different cultures, and not only the campers, but also the counselors who are from, everywhere around the globe, seeing people's different perspectives, hearing their songs that come from those cultures.
Well, she looked at the nickel and she looked at me, and she said, this nickel is no good.
I had a lot of counselors that I really enjoyed. I enjoyed a lot of them because they were all really nice. When girls got homesick, they would comfort the girls because they went through that same experience when they were campers and stuff, so they understood what they were going through and helped them out.
Camp Bonnie Brae is a safe place for girls. There's lots of people in charge, but she's in charge of herself as well. And the growth that you can see from girls as they try new things that they never would have tried at home, and they succeed. Or maybe they don't succeed. It doesn't matter at camp. It doesn't matter. We try new things. Girls have the opportunity to do things that they'd never do at home. And girls have the opportunity to meet girls that they would never meet at home. And to really build within themselves an understanding of living with different people for a week, living in a new environment for a week, new food, all kinds of new things, and the growth is amazing. Girls that come to camp on day 1 and they're kind of looking around and not so sure, by the end of the week, they are trucking right on in.
I love the feel of a day and the feel of a session, like the rhythm of it, like hearing the gong and going to meals at a certain time and, going to the big pond at a certain time and, you have to go to bed at a certain time. There's gonna be a fire at some point. Just this very, there was so much unpredictability in the middle of the day between those things, but there are all these traditions that just kind of ground you and bring you back that people going to that camp have been doing for 100 years.
Everything about Girl Scouting is progression. We want to prepare girls to succeed. So campers that come at the youngest age level get to sleep in our tree houses, which have doors and windows and electricity, and they get to sit above the trees in the Tanglewood unit and look out at the lake. And then they may move to Anchorage and get to sleep in the yurt. So they go to Sherwood and sleep in the cabins. And then eventually they get to go to Burnham Wood, Green Horizons, or Tyro and sleep in the traditional platform tents. And they have no technology for the week. They get to experience camp the same way people did 50, 60, 70 years ago.
I remember going there, I was very scared and I didn't know anyone at all, so I just went into it. It really helped, honestly, that I got a letter from my mom every single day, and it kind of like made me feel more comfortable. Like I felt like I was home and I felt like, okay, like this is good. And then the girls were just amazing and the camp counselors were phenomenal. Like I remember, like I just finished the week and I just felt like I have to go back. And then I just wanted to do more, and I remember I was just like, I'm gonna like keep going and I want to be one of the troops that's in training to be a counselor. Like I wanted to do it all. I learned how to build a sailboat and I learned how to sail, and I thought that was really cool. But also I learned a lot of lifelong skills, just like being connected with a group of people, but also just supporting them and learning how to support people and knowing that, just building those friendships.
I remember like yelling and running around and holding hands with people, things that I would never do in school. And I'm sure having my mother there gave me some of the confidence, but even when she left, that stayed, and I always felt like I was a leader, and people let me be. And in school, I was the token, and I had, horrific experiences in the 60s with discrimination in school. But at Brownies, I didn't. At Brownies, I was just one of the girls. I met some of the nicest people, so that's what kept me coming back. And the fact that I felt like I was doing something positive, not just for me, but for other people. And that is where I met the friends that I still have today. And I was there 2 weeks, and I knew that the next summer I would be there all summer. I would work hard enough, and I did. And then I was there for a couple of years, and then I went to Enchanted Forest, which was across the lake, or around the lake. And then I became a counselor in training, and I was in Green Horizons. And then I started as a counselor. I can remember as a camper, we used to walk to the Enchanted Forest along the water, with our boots on, and get wet if we needed to, and we'd sit on these logs, and we'd watch these girls, and they would sing, and they would recite poetry, and they would read inspirational things, and it was wonderful. And then when I became a forester and got to do that, it was like, it's really as wonderful as I thought it was going to be. I think one of the most important camp traditions to me was the last Friday night when they did the wish boats, and they sang sweet sounding songs, not all the loud songs.
On my honor I will try, there's a duty to be done, and I say there's a reason here, for a reason up above. My honor is to try, and my duty is to love.
I definitely think the wish boat ceremony is really burned into my memory as just, I can hear Beasley's voice and Finney's voice, directing us to do things and putting the boats in the water, and just the stillness of that, and the bittersweetness of this is the end of one thing, but we all have shared in this together.
And I say there's a reason here, for a reason up above. My honor is
I just came for 1 week. I just remember walking through the woods on the path, but I don't know how far. It wasn't as big then as it is now. It's grown a lot. I remember standing in line for food, but there was a tent with a floor, floored tent, and slept on a cot, and it was a big tent. I just remember going to crafts, and there was a fire at night, a bonfire.
We've got a 100-year legacy of people coming to the camp, taking care of the camp, loving it, living in it, and helping it to grow.
I think the legacy is to leave whatever you had better than was when you got there. Whether it's to leave it cleaner, whether it's to leave it, spiritually better if you're working with people, or mentally better, or happier, but to be a steward in the broadest sense of the word, steward, and to take care of and to make better whatever it is that you're doing.
I strive to just help people, and it definitely helped that when I was in Girl Scouts years ago, that I learned so much about the community and different people and the world, and I think that I practice it in my everyday life, always just being kind to everyone that you meet. I treat the CEO the same way I would treat the janitor, and I think that speaks volumes. When I first walked into Bonnie Brae, I was a very shy, timid kid, but by the time I walked out of Bonnie Brae for the last time, I was a courageous, woman, just standing tall.
Camp and Girl Scouts as a whole gave me an environment where people wanted to be around me, wanted my ideas, wanted my friendship, wanted me to be a part of their world. And I thought it was a fluke at first, but it grew, and I found more people who loved me and cared about me, and I grew now to be loud and proud and confident and courageous, and I'm so fortunate to be able to use my story to help more other girls know that you can be you, no matter what you look like, no matter who you are, and you can be proud of that. And now I love this birthmark. I think it's fabulous. I think it's the best part of my body because it's me. You know who I am, and there's no one else like me, and I think that's awesome.
My mother was a Scout before me, and because of Girl Scouts, my daughter has a circle of acquaintances and people and kids that have become friends that I don't think that she would have been able to get with our family life. And that's a wonderful thing.
On the back of a crocodile.
Just being able to say things like, my mother camped here and I camped here and this is what we did, and I remember this was different. The history and the legacy is something that can't be beat. It changes and buildings change and activities change and all that, but the fact that it's Bonnie Brae is the same no matter what. No matter why you're here, it never changes.
It's just as beautiful as it was when we were there. The camp, the Girl Scouts have maintained the integrity of the land. There are new buildings, there's the Leadership Lodge, and there's the tree houses, but the integrity of the land is still the same. It's beautiful.
I envision the legacy to continue for another 100 years. Outdoors and the environment are at the heart of what Girl Scouting is really all about. It's really an important piece of what we try to encourage girls to try. We've done that for 100 years. So that's really stayed the same. How do you work in this great place and learn about it and learn about your world? At the same time, girls are changing so fast all the time. And so we've grown. So now we have paddle boards and we have gaga pits and we've got, all kinds of things that probably weren't around 100 years ago. And that's terrific. But the basic thing is, welcome to the outdoors. Notice it, smell it, feel it, love it. So that stayed the same. At the same time, things change all the time. I think that the legacy of Camp Bonnie Brae is a legacy for hundreds, thousands of women and girls who have been there and will go there in the future. It's something that needs to continue. Not just that we want it to continue, it needs to continue. Can you imagine a world where there wasn't a safe place for girls to experience the outdoors and the environment? Can you even imagine it? We have that in Camp Bonnie Brae, and it needs to continue. You have to have a unique combination of legacy and history and future. So what is it that we did 100 years ago that still girls are interested in? There's lots of stuff that they are, but there's also all this new things for them to work on as well. So we need to keep expanding our horizons on what you can do at camp, at the same time understanding that the legacy of simply being in the outdoors and experiencing the environment is just as important.
I think Girl Scouts actually has done a really great job in many ways of continuing to evolve and grow and not try and stay the same organization. They keep traditions and values alive, but they learn what today's girls are interested in. I think that changing towards, moving towards introducing STEM more into what they're doing, listening to the girls, hearing their voices. When they ask, what should we do for new badges and rewards, they ask the girls, what do you want? They don't tell them what we think is the current thing that should be happening.
And I know from experience with Girl Scouts that Girl Scouts will continue to evolve with the universe and make it meaningful, and it will make it relatable to girls in next generations.
My first hope for the next 100 years for the camp itself is that it doesn't change more than it needs to. It's been a thing that people have loved for 100 years. It's going to be a thing, if you leave it alone, for the most part, that people will still love in 100 years. And at that point, it might be one of a very few respites like that in the world.
I think having that sense of doing the same thing somebody did 20, 30, 40, 50, or even 100 years ago really kind of makes you realize that you're part of this amazing camp family and this tradition that is long-lasting and will continue to last for the years to come.
Camp, Bonnie Brae, Camp, Bonnie Brae, Camp, Bonnie Brae, Camp, Bonnie Brae. Some call it fun, but some may call it madness. So come along with us and wipe away your sadness. Happy campers are we, having fun neath the trees, and when we are gone, you'll remember our song, 'cause we're from Camp Bonnie Brae, Camp Bonnie Brae, Camp Bonnie Brae, Camp Bonnie Brae, Camp.
If you have been a Girl Scout, that's in you always.
It gives you this sense of empowerment that you really can do anything that's put in front of you.
It's always going to be there. It's always that home that you can go back to.
And it just amazes me how people always come back every year because it's just such an awesome place to go.